home or something like that, you know.
Can take a drink just so they have it. I entered as a 4'7", 88-pound freshman. My mission in high school was to get a Letterman's jacket. Well, actually, I showed up the first day and said, "I'm here to become an athlete." And the coach said, "Well, you clearly don't have the physique to throw anything. You're really not very fast. I'm going to make a miler out of you." Which sounded sort of romantic until I discovered that that really meant that each day he would say, "You, go run 4 miles. When you get back, check in."
I mean, I come from a born-again Christian family. My father's a minister, you know, so it's like things were really strict. I had to do a lot of maneuvering.
But the real crack starts when, after school, the third level education. When everything gets legal, like, and you get away from home and you can do whatever the fuck you want because nobody's going to hear about it. You're in a different town or a different city, like, you can fucking tear away. Nobody has a clue what you're doing. Like, you can go out and get pissed arse drunk, like, and you can take a shite on the street and nobody knows you, so it doesn't matter, innit? Like, your parents aren't going to hear about it. Nobody's going to hear about it, so.
I remember listening to Lionel Richie and, like, had my father open the door downstairs and say, "Turn that secular music off." I'm like, truly in love with you, girl? I'm truly in love with you? How is that? Because I went to, like, camps, like youth camps. You know, those camps you hear about when they tell you about, oh, Led Zeppelin backwards is like, Satan's. No.
And then we had our first track meet, and I realized, okay, we have 2 sprinters in the 100, we have 2 hurdlers, we have 2 high jumpers, and we got 20 guys running the mile. What the fuck is that all about? And it's like, oh, every day, you guys, go run 5 miles, check in with me when you get back. And eventually our numbers would dwindle, and I guess I just wasn't that bright because I kept coming back. And I did ultimately get that jacket, but it was based on being, you know, a 4-year athlete as opposed to some, you know, athletic stud.
After I left Dad, I came up to Sonoma County, lived with my sister and her second husband. I did not get along with her husband at all. He and I ram-horned. I hated him. I took at the time, the California Proficiency Examination, which I don't believe they have that here anymore. It's a junior GED is what I call it. And I got out of high school early. I then went to the library and looked up all the information that I could find on emancipating myself. And so I fulfilled the requirements, which were to sustain a job that made so much a year, sustain a place of residence for 3 months. I remember calling my mother, who was my legal guardian, and said, "I've done this. Let's talk about taking this to court and signing these papers."
This is like this boy that I started dating because I had a crush on him since 8th grade, but was pretty certain with the fact that I was a lesbian at this point. And for the first couple of months, I was all, he's really cool. Like, I really like dating him. I really like all this. Too bad I'm a lesbian. And, like, getting all into it, and he would be like, "Oh, I love you." And I'd be like, "Mwah." And that happened for, like, a couple months where I would just kind of offset it with the sexiness. I pierced myself a bunch, and I was a cutter, so I cut myself a bunch. I did getting on with my best friend on school grounds. That was very hot. And it's great because we had this like super hot encounter after school one day, and we're both wearing our uniforms, of course, you know, and whatever. And like, that one encounter, I have so used as fodder for my business for like years. And sometimes I'm like, am I selling out the memory of my love? And I'm like, no. Profiting off of the memory of my love is not the same as selling out. Because I still totally cherish that memory. I just enjoy sharing it so that other people can cherish it as well.
I read about that poison.
And I was very asexual in high school. Like, I mean, granted, I had lots of hormones raging, and you know, Johnny Depp. The girls that I would hang out with on a regular basis started getting boyfriends and doing this and that, and they would talk about things that I kind of wouldn't know what they were talking about. I wasn't experiencing the same things, and so no one really talked to me about anything. Really, I mean, what are they going to talk about? You know.
We used to have parties out in the swamp where you'd walk out and go on these paths and all the different canals. Friends of ours that kind of lived around the canals that had dogs eating. Well, you know, gators are gators. They've been around a lot longer than us. If they won't eat our pets, you gotta buy a big pet.
I had a great experience there. I had some phenomenally good teachers there. You know, guys like Gene DeSoto, may he rest in peace. He just died this year. They called him the coacher. He talked kind of like this. And he did this thing with his tongue. It was really weird. And he taught English like you were storming the beaches. You know, storming the beaches at Normandy. Okay, coaches, we're hitting the hedgerows. We're going to learn about prepositions. I mean, it was hysterical, you know. And doing this thing with his tongue the whole time. And he would gnaw on a styrofoam cup.
I think when I was in college, my mom came in during a spring break or something and said that 3 of my teachers died. Good morning, time to get up. Whoa. Mr. Hans, he taught 9th grade earth science. And Miss Buddy she was cool. She died of something to do with anemia. And Mr. Thompson, my band teacher, died of AIDS. But it's weird, you know, when you're a few years out of high school and you think of them as not real people. They're just teachers. And as you get older, you're like, wow, they're real people.
I had my first physics teacher. His name was Mr. Brakey. And I kid you not, Mr. Brakey sounded exactly like Kermit the Frog. In one of his lab classes, or maybe it was a place he worked, I think it was a lab class, they spilt a bunch of mercury. They dropped like a case of thermometers or something. And the mercury like went out into the cracks of the tables. And it stayed there forever. He would chuckle. I don't really think that the mercury ever actually had any long-lasting effects on us. And you know, you listen to this going, oh, I don't know, man. Maybe it did.
And it kind of sucked too because my grandma died and my mom freaked out. Yeah, and that sucked.
And my mother got sick, you know, my senior year. She actually died my senior year in high school. At that point, I was ready to go to college and, you know, fuck it, you know.
I did. I just dropped them, and I didn't speak to them for over a year. Until I got a call that, you know, helping grandma move. And my mom walked up to me, you know, in the garage, and I thought I was a little freak then. This is back in the 80s, and I was wearing eye makeup and, you know, looking a little weird goth kid. And my mom walked up to me, and she gave me a kiss on the cheek and just said, I am so sorry. And I just looked at her and said, for what? And she just kind of shrugged and said, just for everything. And, you know, we had that little moment there of, okay. And it kind of an epiphany, something that's in my head, there's nothing more this woman can do. You're an adult now, you know. I mean, you've already proven that you can take care of yourself. You can't make any more mistakes with me. You know. And you're probably starting to realize that I'm the youngest child, and eventually you probably have to depend on me now, so won't you? You know, 2 words, Mom, Shady Pines. So.
Basically, I'll sum it up like this. When Columbine happened, I wasn't surprised because I could relate to how hostile the environment was, and I could really see on the faces of all the students just that they were ready to snap, and I could see that the faculty was totally out of touch. You just don't have perspective yet, and you think that it's always going to be like that. And, you know, if you're at the bottom, you go, well, screw it. I'm going to be crap the rest of my life. I might as well just off somebody. Like, that was high school. Kids getting thrown in trash cans. Just, I mean, and then I see these people on the street, you know, like I see these people in Marin, they're like, oh, hi, you know, wow. And I'm like, you know, fuck you. You were an asshole in high school.
high school.